SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Asado, tango, football, iGaming. There's one thing that links all these things together, a country that's probably on many of your bucket lists if you're down for a good barbecue, a night of tango dancing, or watching a football game in the land of the World Cup champions, which happens to also be a landmark for the iGaming industry in Latin America. There have been plenty of discussions going on around the industry in this South American country, which is why we will cover what 2025 was like for Argentina. Welcome to iGaming Daily, supported by Optimove, the creator of positionless marketing and #1 player engagement platform. I'm Fernando, Noodt, media manager for SBC, and your host for today's episode of iGaming Daily, which will cover what has happened in Argentina throughout this year. And I have a very special guest to discuss all this because he's a known expert of the gaming industry. Many of you will already know him from his participation at SBC events and in the industry in general. Tomás García Botta, attorney and partner at MF Estudio Abogados and member of IMGL. Tomás, how are you today?
Hi, Fernando. I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you. Welcome. Is this your first time on iGaming Daily, right?
I think so, yes.
Yes, you've been on many SBC events, but your personal view on the podcast. So let's get right to it and start with a general question. As we near the end of 2025, how do you assess the current state of the Argentinian iGaming market? What challenges is the industry facing in Argentina? And what things do you think are being done right in the local market or markets? Because it's a federal country, so there are several different markets here.
It's a very complex question and an interesting one as well. I mean, in a nutshell, what I can tell you is that the end of the year is better than the beginning of the year. We started 2025 with a lot of questions and a lot of doubts on what will be the future of the regulated iGaming market in Argentina. As you all know, and you have heard me say a number of times, Argentina is fragmented. We are very similar to the US, but unlike the US, instead of 50 states, we have 24 provinces. And the focus of regulation in most provinces has been casino. Argentina is mostly an online casino market. Each province has their own approach to regulation, and then you have the federal state, which steps in and tries to help or participate or, in this case, prevent minors from participating in gambling. But the initiative that was promoted at the National Congress was incorrect in its approach and in the measures that it proposed. Argentina needs more regulation, not a full ban on advertising. Studies show that minors play because they are attracted to gambling, and the gambling offering that they can access is mostly illegal and unauthorized gambling, and they get there because they see influencers, they see social media posts, they hear from a friend. Minors don't pay attention to sponsorships such as the ones you can see on my backdrop, or media ads or TV ads or whatsoever. So going back to your question, we started this year with a lot of uncertainty on what would be the outcome on the national bill that was approved by the House of Representatives of the National Congress on November 27th. 2024. This was then submitted to the Senate for approval and passing into law. And luckily, the industry worked together, public sector and private sector. And this is something that is unique. I've never seen something like this in any other country, where, in terms of objectives, for different reasons, the public sector aligns with the private sector. In this case, no one was in favor of having minors join regulated offering. To the contrary, across the board, everyone's aligned on the fact that minors should not gamble, that gambling is entertainment, and that it should be treated as such. And for this reason, measures to prevent minors from joining gambling platforms, which in all cases are illegal platforms, should be adopted. And this requires cross-work by public sector and private sector. And this is what we have seen. We ended the legislative year ended last week, and luckily the bill was not treated. So now a window of opportunity arises. We have another year during which this bill could be treated by the Senate. Now the aim is to make this bill something that would actually help the regulated sector. More regulation, again, means less minors participating. And at this point in time, Argentina has a significant issue with by black market operators and poor channelization. And minors always go to black market operators. So the challenge for next year has to do with making this bill something that would allow the authorities to do effective enforcement against black market operators.
And I want to pick up something you mentioned, people being in line, everybody on the same page, of course, around minors not having to play on the iGaming industry. But how important is it to have organizations like ALEA or the different chambers that bring the industry together to develop the good practices, prevent the government from pursuing these types of prohibitive approaches, and of course getting on the same page to discuss these issues that impact on the industry and the society in general?
I think it's extremely important because it allows, on the one side, the industry to approach the public and the general audience with a single view. Then each operator may have its commercial differences, its strategies, its advertising campaigns, and the way they approach the public, but there's some common ground which is shared across the industry, and this is where chambers come into place. I mean, what this year has shown us is that the private sector can work together, and this has been unique. I mean, there have been chambers with different forms and shapes over time here in Argentina, and seldomly were these chambers able to come together and propose measures that are useful for the industry as a whole. In this case, I mean, one of the chambers, CASPA, which I happen to be secretary of, was able to actually propose a course of action and implement that course of action, and this led along with the work by ALEA and the regulators with the outcome that I was describing before. In the case of ALEA plays a different role, and ALEA, I mean, for those, we are not speaking of the company you almost know. Almost everyone knows. ALEA is the Association of State Lotteries of Argentina, or Asociación de Loterías Estatales de Argentina, as it's called in Spanish. And it's an organization that is almost 60 years old, and it has general members and incorporate members or additional members. The general members are the state lotteries of Argentina, which for all those who don't know Argentina, we call state lotteries the gaming regulators, because with the exception of 2 provinces, state lotteries are a monopoly organized by the state. So ALEA has all the state lotteries inside, then it has private companies joining 2 over the past year, and ALEA has increased the participation of private companies as well. But at the end of the day, it works as a forum where all regulators get together and propose common strategies. So they have their own standard for online gaming, which was created to enable state lotteries to pass on regulations that were aligned with industry best practices. They have an agenda when it comes to AML. They have an agenda when it comes to advertising. They run studies to see how the population sees gambling, both land-based and online, and how people interact with gambling and get to know gambling products. So I think the role is really relevant under the current president of ALEA. ALEA has moved to the next level, and it's playing a leading role in defending the sector. I don't mean the interest of the private companies. I mean the sector in general and the sustainability of the sector, which is something different. In this case, and as a result of the bill, private and public views were aligned in most of the parts, but I mean, ALEA plays a key role in making sure that this fragmented market does not become an impossible market for operators who need to comply with 24 different set of rules.
Yeah, it's definitely busy in Argentina, as you may hear through both our windows. But it's very interesting what you're saying, Tomás. And before we go on a very quick break, I want to ask you, and if you can be brief with your answer, do you consider there are enough tools in Argentinian regulation to work in a responsible way, following what we discussed before?
I think yes, but I think that the regulation lacks tools to prevent bad actors from entering the market. And this is what we are seeing. Now, the challenge that the regulated sector has is tackling the black market operators in an effective way. And this is the battle that we need to fight next year.
And we will be right back with more iGaming Daily on Argentina with Tomás García Botta, attorney and partner at MF Estudio Abogados and member of IMGL. You mentioned, Tomás, advertising. I want to cover that on the next half of this podcast. So people out there will be right back.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
And we're back with more iGaming Daily to discuss the Argentinian market and what the year has been for Argentina with Tomás García Botta, attorney and partner at MF Estudio Abogados, also member of IMGL. Tomás, we were speaking of responsible gambling, of good practices, and part of the general public in Argentina actually seems to see the industry as a bad actor. But how much do you think that bad image comes from not being able, from the society not being able to separate the regulated market from the illegal operators?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, if you ask Argentine people, no one likes gambling, but everyone gambles. And they gamble more than they would want to admit. I don't know if this is common to other markets, but this is common to Argentina for sure. What I can tell you is that according to studies, out of adult population, 50% of the people don't know how to tell a regulated site from an unlicensed site. And this is not, this I can tell you, this is not common from Argentina. A few years ago, Spain did a similar survey, and the outcome was pretty much the same. In that case, I think it was 60-40, with 60 knowing how to tell a regulated site from an illegal one, and 40 not knowing one. And with that, the industry needs to be creative when it comes to education, because you need to tell the people how to identify a regulated site, and you need to focus on what is the importance of a regulated site, what it means. I mean, it means jobs in Argentina, it means taxation. From a player point of view, the player really doesn't care about taxation or whatsoever, or the jobs. They care if there is fair play, and if they pay, they win. So these are the two things that you cannot warranty on an illegal website. I mean, if they don't pay, you have nowhere to go to demand for payment, and you don't have any way of knowing whether there is fair play or not, or whether the games are actually working as they should or not. Plus, you see a lot of counterfeit in black market sites as well. So back to your question, I think the challenge has to do with educating the people on why it is important to play on regulated sites and how to tell a regulated site from an illegal site. What studies show is that when minors were asked, no one is questioning whether minors could gamble or not. They think they can gamble, and they don't know how to tell. They cannot distinguish a regulated site from a regulated site where they will not be allowed to play from a site where they will be allowed to play because it doesn't have any identity checks or it doesn't have any measures that will prevent minors from participating. I think that Argentina has gone one step forward, although it has been promoted, but I think not enough, with the use of the special domains for regulated sites. We use .bet.ar, which is an extension that is solely given to regulated operators. So if you want to request domain.bet.ar, you need to go to nic.ar, which is the authority that grants the registration of domain names under the AR zone. And the nic.ar will ask you to provide evidence that you have an authorization to operate online. And if you are unable to produce that authorization, they will not allow you to register a domain. If you're able to produce that authorization, then nic.ar will go to the relevant regulatory authority, and they will ask them to confirm whether the authorization is valid or not. And this is a huge step forward. Earlier this year, we faced as an industry the situation what to do and how to make this .bet.ar more visible to the general population, and one of the solutions had to do with going after influencers promoting black market sites, and this ended with a video that you know for sure. Fer, I don't know if the audience does, but they can easily look it up if they look for influencers and black market operators, and they will see a video with a very prominent influencer here in Argentina with sunglasses explaining how .bet.ar is a safe environment and why gambling regulated and only if you are over 18 years old and you do it for entertainment is advisable. And in that way, I mean that action, which was a joint effort by one of the trade associations and the courts in the city of Buenos Aires, it led to more visibility on the use of the .bet.ar.
And you mentioned, Tomás, at the beginning of this episode, the proposal to ban gambling advertising, to impose a blanket ban on gambling advertising. So I was planning to ask you if you think that a measure like this would have the positive impact that lawmakers say they think that it will have, but I probably know the answer already from what you've just said. So I want to go straight into the self-regulation side of things. How meaningful is it to have self-regulation for industry operators? What do you think are the key things having self-regulation promotes? And can you tell us a little bit about how Argentinian operators are doing this?
I think that there's an important point here. Whenever you see the debates on the national bill, it's always showcased as a reaction to lack of regulation. Well, the situation is quite the opposite. I mean, as I was saying at the beginning, the market is fragmented, but advertising is regulated in almost every big jurisdiction when it comes to population and traffic. So I don't think the question is so much on self-regulation, but on whether the different regulations that are in place can be harmonized so that you can have a single responsible gaming phone number or a single responsible gaming legend that you need to place on any advertising. If you consider now the federal dimension of government and the recent decision by the Secretary of Industry to impose minimum requirements on gambling advertising, situation gets extremely complex. I think that self-regulation is important, but in this case, the focus should be on harmonizing and on understanding based on evidence where is the traffic coming from. Putting a brand on a football shirt may not be something people would like to see, but this is a personal view. If there is a there is no evidence showing that people gamble because they see a gambling brand on a football shirt. Evidence shows quite the opposite. People go engage in gambling because they see influencers, they see public personalities that are promoting gambling brands. And this is why it's important to work with them so that these public figures can share a responsible gaming view, and they can focus on the fact that gambling is entertainment, that should be only enjoyed if you are of legal age to join, and that it does not undermine working or the value of working in any way. I mean, again, gambling is entertainment. You will not change your luck. You will not become a millionaire, and you should not gamble in order to do so. You should work to get your earnings and fulfill your life as a human being. And then if you have spare time and you want to enjoy gambling, you can do it, as you could go to the cinema, you could play a sport, or you could, take a walk on a park. I mean, whatever each one of us would find fulfilling. Again, I think this is important. It's not a matter of self-regulation. It's a matter of harmonizing all the different regulations that are out there.
And coming into the closing remarks of this episode, do you think we will continue to have this debate in 2026? What other things do you think will dominate the agenda in terms of iGaming of the iGaming industry in Argentina next year?
I think the debate on the law will continue during next year. Hopefully, we will be able to convince the Senate that the law as it is drafted is not fit for purpose, and that we need less provisions that would focus on the main problems that Argentina has when it comes to gambling, which are mainly the presence everywhere of black market operators and the need to tackle the black market offering in an effective way, in a fast and effective way. These are the two things. On the other side, I think that, again, the focus on harmonization is important, and this has an impact on advertising at a point, on the AML provisions. I mean, this is, and here it's not minor. Regulated sites in Argentina need to collect 21 fields of information from potential players, whereby you can go on black market sites and open an account without giving even your name. And just saying any name, and you will be shared credentials to log in a website and bank details to be able to make your first deposit. And then there is another big issue that has to do with taxation and federal taxation when it comes to gambling. And again, key here, in my view, is to harmonize. And harmonization requires education as well, because you cannot expect an authority to think of harmonization if they don't know the rules that are already there. And this is the situation that we came across throughout 2024 when we engaged with authorities. I mean, they were not aware that there were regulations. They were not aware on how the black market works. They were not aware on how regulated market works. And they, with good intentions, were trying to come up with a solution to a problem they don't understand. So I think that the key point would be making everyone understand what's out there so that they could act on their best intentions and get the right measures in place.
Harmonization, education, I think you've made a few very solid and very strong points. Tomás García Botta, attorney and partner at MF Estudio Abogados, member of IMGL, and our personal go-to attorney when we need to ask anything about gambling regulation in Argentina. Tomás, thank you very much for joining us today on iGaming Daily. And thank you very much, Anaya McDonald, for producing this episode. I'm Fernando Noodt. To our listeners out there, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Thank you, Fernando. Have a nice day. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.